There was no one in sight, I knew, until I leaned well over the rail. But upon doing that, I felt little chills of excitement run from the top to the bottom of my spine, for I discovered in a very prominent situation at the very edge of the dance floor a party of 4, of whom 3 very much concerned us. Lloyd Manton, back to the polished space behind him, was unmistakable in evening clothes. These bunched at his neck and revealed his habitual stoop as impartially as his business suits. Across from him, lounging upon the table likewise, but more immaculately and skilfully tailored, was Lawrence Millard. The writer, I noticed, flourished his cigarette-holder fully a foot in length, and emphasized his remarks to the girl on his right with a rather characteristic gesture made with the second finger of his left hand. The girl was Enid, quite mistress of herself in a gown little more than no gown, and the remarks were obviously confidential. The other girl, engrossed in Manton, seemed a dangerously youthful and self-conscious young lady. Her hair flamed Titian red, and her neck, of which she displayed not half as much as Enid, gave her much concern. "Kennedy, look!" I reached over to attract his attention. "Who's the second girl, I wonder?" He became as interested as I was. With a blatant flourish of saxophone and cornet and traps, the band began a jazzy foxtrot. Instantly there was a rush from the tables for the floor. Enid jumped to her feet, moving her bare shoulders in the rhythm of the music. Then Millard took firm hold of her, and they wove their way into the crush. It seemed to me that the little star was the very incarnation of the dance. I envied her partner more than I dared admit to myself. Manton and his companion rose also, but more leisurely. On her feet, the girl did not seem so young, although the second impression may have been the result of the length of her skirt and the long slim lines of her gown. We watched both couples through the number, then gave our attention to the food we had ordered. Another dance, a modified waltz, revealed Enid in the arms of Manton. I tried to determine from her actions if she felt any preference for the producer or for Millard when again she took the floor with him. It was an idle effort, of course. The people surged out perhaps 3 or 4 times while we were at our meal. Each time the party below jumped up in response to the music. At our cigars, finally, I took to observing the other diners, wondering what we had gained by coming here. Suddenly, I realized that Kennedy was rising to greet someone approaching our table. Turning, rising also, I went through all the miseries of the bashful lover. It was Enid herself. "I caught sight of you looking over the rail while I was dancing," she told Kennedy, accepting a chair pulled round by the waiter. "I knew you saw me. Also, I glanced up and found that you were perfectly well aware of the location of our table. So," engagingly, "unsociable creature, why didn't you come down and say hello or ask me for a dance?" "Perhaps I intended to a little later." "Yes," she exclaimed in mockery. "You see, since Mecca won't go to the pilgrim has to come to Mecca." "Did you ever hear of Mohammed and the mountain, Miss Fay?" Kennedy asked. "Of course, that's the regular expression, but I agree with Barnum. As he said, some people can be original some of the time, and some people can be original all of the time, and I propose to be original always, like a baby with molasses." Kennedy laughed, for indeed she was irresistible. Then she turned to me, placing one of her warm little hands upon mine. "And Jamie," she purred, "have you forgotten little Enid altogether? Won't you come down and dance?" "I can't!" I exploded in agony. "I don't know how!" And I thought I would never dare trust myself with her glistening shoulders clasped close to me, with her slim bare arm placed around my neck, as I had watched it slip around the collar of Millard. "Now that the pilgrim is at Mecca," Kennedy suggested, interrupting cruelly, as I thought. "Oh!" In an instant I sensed that I was forgotten, and I was hurt. "There's something which came out this afternoon at the studio," she began, "and I wonder if you know. Larry, that's Mr. Millard, assures me it is true, and I think you ought to hear about it. I want to assist all I can in solving the mystery of Stella Lamar's death, even though Stella's unfortunate end has meant my opportunity." "What is it, Miss Fay?" Kennedy was studying her. "It's about Jack Gordon. He's been trying to hold up the company for $1,500 a week, which would double his salary. Perhaps you've heard that?" Kennedy nodded, although it was news to him. "I've been thinking about Gordon," he murmured. "Anyway," she went on, "it's gone around that he's desperately in need of money, and that is why he's so insistent upon the increase. It seems he owes everyone. In particular, he owes Phelps some huge sums, and old Phelps is on his tail, hollering and raising Ned. Phelps, you know, has uses for money himself just now. Have you heard?" Again Kennedy evaded a direct answer. "Money is frightfully tight, of course," he remarked, encouraging her to continue. "Yes," she repeated. "Phelps is terribly hard up and after Gordon. And that's not all about our handsome leading man, Mr. Kennedy." She leaned forward. A certain intensity crept into her voice. She began to toy with his sleeve with the slender fingers of one hand, as though in that manner to compel his greater attention. "You know, Stella Lamar really was in love with Jack Gordon. In fact, she was daffy over him. And now I've found out that he was borrowing money from her, was taking nearly every cent she earned to sink in his speculations. Do you get that?" Enid's eyes snapped. Most certainly I understood. I knew well the type of Stella. She had made many men give up to her motor cars, expensive furs, jewelry, all manner of presents. But in the end she had found one man to whom she in turn was willing to yield all. But what of him? "In the last few weeks, they tell me, poor Stella disposed of many of her handsome presents from men like Manton and Phelps and others, all to get money to give to him. At the end, she even raised money on her jewelry. I think you'll find it all in the pawn now if you'll investigate. I don't doubt but that poor Stella died without a penny to her name." I was so surprised at this information that I failed to study Kennedy's face. I was completely jolted from my own rapt contemplation of the very soft curves of Enid's back. For here was a motive at last. Gordon was a possible suspect I had failed to even take halfway seriously. Yet the leading man was desperately pressed for money, had had a disgraceful fight with Phelps as we already knew, and not only owed huge sums to his fiancée, as Enid now explained, but had quarrelled with her just prior to her death, according to his own admission in the investigation at Tarrytown. Suddenly the music struck up once more. Enid rose, adjusting the straps of her gown. "There!" she exclaimed.